Hey, it's Mack with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and it is Tuesday. It is November 1st. This will be our chart lesson for the day, and great trend working lower today. These are the kind of days you long for as a trader. It's all downhill. All you had to do was really go short at almost any point. Really, we made lower lows and lower highs all the way. The first time we made a higher low really of any significance was once we overshot this blue channel. Um, you probably didn't find the blue channel until we got this swing, these last couple of swings in here. Um, really, I traded the brown one early on, and then I started trading the brown one again once we went lower here. At this point, you probably would have had the blue one. That would have given you this target down here. Um, but you really didn't. So you really didn't need the bigger two-tiered blue channel. So, um, but yeah, these are the kind of days that we dream about and wait on, and all you got to do is just jump in with a trend, and you can't hardly go wrong. Anytime you come back to a key entry point, just jump in, or if you get one of our traps or something like that, just jump in. So anyway, I'm gonna back out. We'll go through the trades, and again, I'm not gonna take very long today. There's a lot of trades, but they're all pretty straightforward. When I came in, I was looking at the brown channel. Um, Originally, I had it a little steeper, but once this set up here, I drew it off these bottom ones using the closing ones, and when I drug it up, I originally had it a little higher. It still fits there pretty nicely. You really still end up with the same thing. Um, so it doesn't matter if you saw it like that, but I tightened it a little bit right here. It's a little bit of a spiking channel. And if you just drew it, really, if you just drew it off the highs, you couldn't get it to fit real nicely on the bottom. So once I got it to fit here, I just kind of drug it up. And you can see it fits there, but we kept turning down early. So I adjusted a little bit and like so, and like it's a spiking channel. You really still come up with the same. It doesn't change anything. You still get your break at the same place in the new low. And then we corrected for a little bit. And really all we were doing is there was a bigger channel. And this was just a shorter term one within the bigger one. Uh, you probably wouldn't have found this one until we made the. I drew it off this first one just to be sure. And this was the first or the second swing. Here's your first one up here. I drew it off this one, just assuming, hey, maybe this is our second swing. And I really didn't trust it till here. So this is a little bit too congestive to enter here anyway. So even though it would have worked, I think you're better off. This is the reversal type pattern. And when we came back and got a second entry there again, then it was off to the races. But even within the blue channel, you found another brown channel, and it played out perfectly as well. We ended up overshooting everything and reversing. And you can see we traded higher the rest of the day. So pretty good day. So, but anyway, let's back up here and talk about the trades. Um, we were working lower right away, and again, I was just looking for prices to come back to the key entry point or the trend line. But originally I had it up here, and so it still works like that at that point. It wasn't until we got down here that we started coming up short. And it could be that it's still exactly where I have it. Again, it doesn't really change anything by tightening it up. But generally, you want to see prices come back to the trend line. But that could mean that prices are just so weak they can't even get back there. And so that's telling you something as well. You don't see that very often unless it's a really strong trend. But it seems, but obviously this was either a really strong trend or the trend line was just a little lower. And again, it doesn't change anything. You still get your break at the same place. So again, it doesn't matter. But anyway, we come back to the trend line here. You've got a trend work. You've got a correction working up. First entry, pull back, second entry. This is really your signal bar. Let me make this a little bigger. But it's a doji. I mean, that's a sure doji. So that's a one bar trading range. So really you needed this bar. And so what I would have done was let prices break below this bar and drop my limit order back up here where it originally was. And you would have gotten filled that way. Notice it came back just enough to fill that, and it dropped on down. And I would have measured my measured moves. I would have measured these two together. And then I would have measured just this last leg and drug it over two. And we undershot one and overshot the other one slightly. Actually, we didn't undershoot the other one. We just kept going, but it bounced a little early from the measured moves. So you really had to be patient this morning and wait. You might have thought about a long here. It's a second entry. It's really not a second entry. If you treat this as a new high, then you come back first entry, second entry, but we really don't make a new high there. It's still lower than that one. So in all intents and purposes, it's not really a second entry. But you might have thought about going long there, but since this one was kind of neutral and this one couldn't break above it, it couldn't even make an equal high, I wouldn't take that. Even though it would have worked, you're better off just to wait. So you had to be patient, and so it's after 8:30 before you get a trade this morning. But once you get in, if you caught that one trade, you can ride that all the way down all day with a runner because it would have survived. And of course, we come down, we get our first break of this little short term. You get a first entry, you pull back, and then you get a second entry here. And the reason we weren't quite back to the EMA, we weren't quite back to the trend line. I still liked it though because we hadn't made a new low yet on this shorter term trend line, and it's been all downhill, so it's pretty bearish. So you could argue for this one to be green. There is a little bit of congestion there, so you could almost argue for that one to be green at that point. We do pull back here and test the trend line, and look at that big bearish bar, and you know, it's very negative, very bearish. It's right off the key entry point, so I like that. Even though this close to the low, I mean, we're the overnight low is way back here, and we're still going lower. And this is still a valid trend line right here, and it's a fairly bearish trend. And so I like going short there. And of course, you come back first entry, pull back, and you get a second entry here. You actually get one more push up in a trap, but it's still a second entry right here because we never broke lower again. So it's a second entry, failed second entry long. It's off the EMA trend line, bearish market, another nice move down. And then you correct, you come back. You actually could have gone short here, but notice you got this trend working up and there's no break. This is the first break. It's almost always wise to wait on a lower high second entry, and you get that right here. Again, it's not a real great signal bar, but it's a lower high, and then again, you might have waited on this one and let it break lower and then dropped a limit order, maybe a couple of back in. You might have missed this trade if you did that, though. It wouldn't have come back from here and filled you like the other one did for sure. But as bearish as this has been, and this being the first break, we're probably going to make a new low. So I'm going to take this second entry. Technically, it's not a second entry because we went lower right there. So really, the second entry was here. But on a bigger scale, that's still a second entry short, and it's a lower high. And as bearish as this is, we're going to make a new low. And we might just keep going lower. I wouldn't take this one. We've moved too far. We didn't have much of a correction there either. Even though it looks like a little bit of a trap, I wouldn't take that. And then it bounces. We got our new low in. So, but at this point, as bearish as that's been, I'm going to look for a correction, but we're probably going to end up trying to go lower again before the day's over. So see if you can find a bigger pattern. And sometimes a market like this could reverse. I mean, we got to remember that we're real close to the 2100 level. That's at a very emotional level. And notice that even though we got well below that, where do we close? We close right back above the 2100 level. Well, where is it over here? Way over here. See, we close back above the 2100 level, and that doesn't surprise me at all. That's pretty standard. So, um, but anyway, let's go back. So now you got your break of this one and new low in place. So we're probably going to get a correction of at least a couple legs. Sometimes that correction will last an hour or so. This one didn't last very long. We made a low at around 9:45 probably, and I'd say we started going lower again right around 10:25. So it wasn't much more than 30 minutes or so. But notice we're working up. You get a little close, you move up, and you really wouldn't know to go short here. There is some resistance across here, but I wouldn't take this one because you might even, you also need to draw another trend line here just in case off that next swing, like so, just in case. It doesn't come in to play really. You got your close and break here, and then you get a lower high and a second entry short here, but look how it's just kind of going sideways and jumbling. But when it pushes on through the EMA and pulls back and it tests that trend line again and confirms it and gives you that big bearish bar, I like going short right there. A lot of times catching this you'll get to ride another runner all the way to the bottom. It didn't in this case. It came back, but it gives you another chance to enter, and this time you can ride it all the way out. A runner would have survived all the way. And notice we made a new low. Pull back, you get a first entry. You pull back, you get a second entry. You get a second entry short here, but that's the first close out of your little trend line. You're not quite back to the EMA. It's been pretty bearish, so you might have gotten sucked in there. If you did, just hold on and you get a chance right here to enter. You would have been early here, and look at it go. And notice that's a new swing high. So first entry long, pull back, second entry long, it fails. And this one is right at the low of the day, but with that little trap there, I like this one. You could argue for this one to be real close to being green. It's a little iffy being that close to the low of the day, but look at it go. And notice if you drew your trend line kind of off those first few closes there, you probably would have had to adjust this one. But by the time it gets to here, if you just drew it off the lows and drug it up, it fits perfect. And you know exactly where to expect that turn down. So both of these lines today I found off the low rather than finding them off the high. So we correct back, there's a trend line here. Right up through there. You get a close outside, move to a new high. You could also look at this like a little range with a failed break. But either way, it turns down right off the key entry point, the trend line there, right where you're expecting it, and you get a big bearish bar. Just go short. Again, you would have caught a runner there. You get a first entry long, pull back second entry long. And so there's a failed second entry long right off the trend line again. Go short there. Boom. Comes back one more time. Again, this is just a first entry. But with it being the key entry point, the EMA, and how bearish this is, I'm going to take that. On a weak trend day or a range day, I'm probably going to wait on the second entry or let the trend line rules play out. And they didn't here. But when this thing's been downhill all day, the key entry point, you want to take it. Look at it go. Where does it bounce? Right at the other side. And if you'd have drawn this line or copied your upper line and drug it down to the lows of the day, and you would have seen that your midline was fitting well in there, and you would have noticed that that's exactly where everything bounces. And then you get a first entry, pull back second entry short once again. Doesn't get back to the key entry point. That's a double top. Look at it go. This one you could almost argue to be green as well. It looks very much like this one. So it's kind of it doesn't break higher though. So you might argue for that one to be green just because there's not a lot of room there to get out before the low. And we did just come off the low side of both the green or the brown and the blue trend lines. So, but anyway, then you pull back and you get a failed second entry long here. Notice the new high, pull back first entry, pull back second entry. This one I definitely made green and almost would skip it. We're bouncing off that blue line again. But look at it, pushes on through and we get an overshoot of the brown channel and the blue channel. And then it reverses. But I'm not buying anything. The only time I would have considered buying was on the failed second entry short here, but you're right back to the main trend line, and there's two, and this has been two bears. So just wait. And of course, now you got your close outside, two legs up to a new high, and you get that big bearish bar. Goes short, pulls back, makes a lower high right off the trend line again, another big bearish bar. Goes short, you get your failed second entry long, another big bearish bar right off the trend line. Go short, same thing, and now you're into the afternoon. So when you get this late in the afternoon and you've had this big of a trend down, don't take anything iffy because you got too many easy trades. You really, literally, you could have sold anywhere on the way down off a key entry point and made money today. And so once you had this big overshoot, you may not get a retest of the low. We were just overdone here is the bottom line. So, but yeah, these are the kind of days we live for. And when you recognize a strong trend like this down or up, if you wait on second entries every time, you're going to miss a lot of good trades. So just look for any reason to get short that fits our rules and take it, and you'll probably do well. So I wish it was this easy every day. I'm sure I'll get some people that there's probably some of it that tried to buy it all the way down. I mean, that's what really gets me sometimes when you see a trend like this and somebody, before I do the chart lesson, somebody will send me an email asking where they messed up, and every time they were trying to buy all the way down. And when you get a trend like this, there's only one thing to do, and that's sell. And notice there's no buys in here all day long. I wouldn't buy anywhere in here. If it was still in the trading hour, once we started going higher here, I might have, there's some buys in here, of course. But prior to that, till to the 2 o'clock hour, there's not a single buy in here. This one's tempting as heck, but it would have been tempting here, probably would have been tempting here, and you would have just been you would have just been buying and getting tricked the whole way. So you can't afford to do that. So even though this one looks really good, you just got to skip it because you don't want to be buying 3 or 4 times here before you get it right. You'll lose so much that by the time you do get it right, you can't make any money. So anyway, going to be short and sweet again tonight. This is not quite as short as it was last night, but this is as easy as it gets. It's not going to get much easier than this. And I hope that most of you recognize that this was a strong downtrend, and you recognize that there's trends within the trends, and you found a reason to sell. And you didn't try, most importantly, I hope you didn't try picking bottoms today, because this is where you really lose your shirt if you try picking bottoms. And if you get a trend this strong going up, don't be trying to pick tops. Just stay with the trend, and like I said, you could sell just about anywhere in here and still make money all the way down. So anyway, I'm going to wrap it up for the day. We'll be back again to do it tomorrow. This is Mack with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and we'll see you next time.